So our porch is looking a little bit dirty. It is springtime, and you know what that means? Time for a good old-fashioned porch. Time for a good old-fashioned porch makeover. Today we gotta get all these cobwebs, all this dirt off the front porch from wintertime. I got some big ideas that coming up here. We're gonna plant some plants, fake plants. We're gonna make a bench, put some pillows out, nice and cute. Let's head out there. This rug has been here for almost a year now, and it is about done. I'm not exactly sure if that is mold or what the heck that is on there. Yeah, that's gross. We're definitely getting rid of this. These succulents are almost done for. The tile here that the house came with is also starting to chip, and I'd really love to replace it with some sort of bricks in the pattern that would match the sidewalk, but that's too much for this weekend. For now, we'll just focus on getting this porch cleaned up and add a few more elements to make it feel a little more welcoming. I started by making over a couple of these planters. This white one here I got from IKEA. It used to be a brownish color, but it's plastic. I had previously spray painted it white, but wanted to give it more of a natural stone finish. So I picked up this stone finish spray paint from Home Depot. This comes in a couple of different colors. This one is more of like a beige stone, but they also have some gray and black stone textures to it. So it actually sprays out in kind of these little bumps and gives it a little bit of color and a little bit of texture. I decided on spraying the blue planter as well, but once it was completely dry, I didn't absolutely love the look, so later on I ended up painting over it. But here you can see that texture really close up. It gives a nice little bumpy texture, almost looks like real stone. For this gray planter, I wanted to paint it a darker color, but I also wanted to give it a texture that was a little bit different than the stone that I was painting the other planters, so I decided on that mixing baking soda with paint trend. There really isn't any recipe that I found to doing this. I just kind of put a little paint in the cup and put some baking soda until I thought it had kind of a creamy consistency texture. Just go ahead and use your brush to paint it on. I'm painting it horizontally around the planter so that it gives kind of this handmade pottery look to it. It dries pretty quickly and you shouldn't need a second coat, especially for this one where the gray is showing through on the bottom. It gives that nice dimensional look to it. Next, I'm measuring the porch to decide how big I want my bench to be, or rather how small this bench should be. We don't really have room for a full sitting bench, but I thought that a small bench that I made that could hold some pillows or some plants would look super cute. Still kind of gives that welcoming look, but it doesn't take up as much space as a full-size bench. I decided on a height of about 15.5 or 16 inches and a width of 30 inches. So since I'm using 1x4s here, I cut down 10 15.5 inch pieces and 4 30-inch pieces. I'm placing an additional 1x4 piece across the top, so the total will be about 16.25 inches tall. After sanding down all these pieces individually, I used something called a tack cloth. Now this is a new trick that I actually saw on TikTok, but tack cloth is basically just like sticky cheesecloth, and it does a really good job of getting all those sawdust pieces off once you're done sanding. I then laid out all the pieces for the bench in a dry fit to decide the exact pattern I wanted them. I first had them stacked at the very ends of the long 30-inch pieces. I'm using some scrap wood here as a little divider to help hold it up, because the pattern is actually going to have a little bit of space between the legs. Once I got that all set up, I decided that I wanted to move the legs inwards a little bit, so I scooted them in and had the long 30-inch pieces sticking out by about 2 or 3 inches, and I decided I liked that better. I wanted to give this bench a little bit of color, but I wasn't too keen on staining this natural wood color. I really liked the look of the natural pine, so I decided to add some black accents by painting a couple of the legs. I'm just painting 4 of these 15.5-inch pieces, and these are going to go on the outside of the bench. Now, of course, this wouldn't be a House on October Drive makeover if I didn't add a little bit of Halloween theme into here. So I took some cement all, mixed it up, and I'm making these little skeleton garden gnomes to just stick into the planters. I'm using a silicone ice cube mold that's in the shape of skulls that I found at a thrift store, and I really loved the way that these turned out. After the paint was dry on those legs, I could begin assembling my tiny bench. So I took 2 of the dark colored legs and placed them on the bottom here. I marked 2 inches on the inside of these 30-inch pieces as a guide for how far to inset each of the legs. I placed the first 30-inch piece on top of the black legs on the bottom, added some wood glue, and then placed another set of legs directly on top of that 30-inch piece. Make sure to check for square as you assemble this, and you can also use spacers between the legs to help even everything out. Because I only had 2-inch nails to go into my nail gun, I stacked 3 of these pieces before adding any nails, but if you have smaller nails, you can start nailing the first 2 pieces together. If you have some nails sticking out here like I do because I forgot to adjust the depth on my nail gun, make sure you hammer those things in so that the next layer will sit nice and flush. And then you basically just keep repeating all of these steps, measuring 2 inches in from the sides, gluing, stacking, and nailing these pieces together. The nice thing about this pattern is you can actually make this bench as wide as you want it to. So even though mine isn't going to be very wide, it's only enough to hold a few pillows or a few plants, you could actually make this into a bench large enough to sit on. Once you finish stacking all these pieces, add your last leg in the accent color that you chose. I'm adding one more piece across the top here, and it measures to 6.75 inches, but I really wanted to make sure it was a perfect fit, so I didn't cut this piece until after I assembled it. Basically, once it was all the way assembled, I took my scrap 1x4, held it up as you can see here, and then marked where I needed to make that cut. It does add a little bit more time to this project since you have to paint those extra pieces black after you have already painted the other 4 legs. But I'm such a perfectionist that I don't mind a little bit of extra work just to make sure that the top of this bench looks really nice. Once those last 2 pieces were dry, I nailed them into the top and then finished the whole thing with a couple of coats of polyurethane. My little bench is so cute! For this house number sign, I started with a scrap piece of plywood and I found some 3-dimensional number signs at Home Depot. So these numbers actually stick a little bit out of the surface that you're mounting on, and it gives it a really cool 3D look. You could mount these numbers permanently on the wall, but I really like the idea of being able to switch out the sign every season. The numbers come with a template which you can use to space evenly out on the surface you're mounting them to. I originally was going to mount these numbers in the middle, but then I thought it would look really cool if I moved them up a little bit and actually wrote out the street name October Drive down below. I moved these numbers up towards the top and then sketched out the design of the October Drive lettering that I had in mind. Later on, I'll actually print the letters from a computer and use carbon paper to transfer it onto the sign. Once I had all the numbers spaced out where I wanted them, I used this little device to tap holes where the screws would go, following the templates that came in the package with the numbers, and then drilled holes for each of these numbers to be mounted into. You can see once they're placed that they have a little bit of space in between the number and the actual board, giving it that cool 3D look. Mounting is not permanent, they can actually still be tapped out from the other side, which is what I did in order to paint the sign. In my mind, I was going to paint this sign white, but once I got actually making the sign, I thought that white color was just going to be too boring, so I decided to mix up another color with some paints that I already had on hand. So I feel like this is gonna fail miserably. We're gonna try it. It's like a gray pink. I don't know, what do you think? It's like beige. Okay, it's like a beige color. Okay, I can work with this. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, it's not like pink, it's not like, this is like ballerina pink, and this is like gray pink. Let's do this. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so. Yeah, I like it. I like this color. It's super cute. It's gonna look so good outside. I like it. Y'all, it is 8 o'clock at night and I'm still drinking coffee. The paint is dry on here, and last night I also decided to paint this blue planter, that same kind of pinkish grayish color, because I just wasn't really feeling the blue, but I like this color. I think it'll look good with a plant in there. So now we're gonna write the street name on here and then get that all written out with a Sharpie, and then clean the porch and get it all set up. I printed out 2 different letterings here. Basically, I just couldn't decide which one I wanted to use until I actually saw it on the sign. I ended up going with the block letters instead of the script font. This can just be printed on regular printer paper, nothing special, and then I slip a piece of graphite paper underneath the letters and trace them. This makes a small copy of the letters underneath, and then you can remove the paper and hand letter your design. I started going over the lettering with a permanent felt tip marker and then used a very small felt tip pen in order to create the points on the design. Once the lettering was dry, I covered the entire thing with a coat of polyurethane in order to waterproof it. I then cut down 4 pieces of 1x2 board to use as a frame, painted them black, and then also coated them in polyurethane. Once the paint was dry, I secured the frame using wood glue and nails. Since I was starting with a 1/2-inch piece of scrap plywood as the inside of the frame, I used 1/2-inch plywood spacers in order to raise up the inside of the sign so that it sat in the middle of the frame. Once the frame was secure, I added the numbers back in and it was ready to hang on the wall. Now our porch doesn't usually look this gloomy. I just kind of took advantage of a cloudy day and just decided to sweep this porch here. This time of year our area can get really cloudy, and unfortunately we don't have the bright sunlight that we normally have the rest of the year. Once this porch was clean and it was a little bit more sunny outside, it was time to get decorating. I started with this rug that I found at Target for about $25 and then added this super cute doormat. It says, "I hope you brought wine," and surprisingly it was only $12. Then I started placing all of the things that I had made to go out here. So I have my tiny bench, I have this white planter, and really I kind of just have to rearrange things, put something in one place, take a step back, look at it, see if it needs to go somewhere else, and then keep rearranging it. I brought out some of our fake houseplants that we had indoors because this porch really does not get a whole lot of sunlight, and I could not find any tall plants at the store that were suitable for very little sunlight. This fig tree and the cactus are both from West Elm, and luckily they're on sale right now, so go snag one before this deal is up. Because that white planter is so tall, I stuffed an empty cardboard box in the bottom to prop up the cactus and the tree when I sat them in there. It's a quick and easy trick to give these plants just a little bit more height when you have a large planter. These pillows I found at Target in the dollar section. They were $5 each. Unfortunately, I had a hard time finding them online, but check your local stores because I just bought them a few days ago. After moving things around a little bit, I decided this fig tree was just too big for the porch and I was going to stick with the cactus. These small ferns I actually found on sale at IKEA, but regularly they're only about $13. Sometimes when I find cute plants or home decor items on sale, I'll just buy them. Even if I don't have a use for them, I'm sure I'll find one someday. Let me know in the comments below what's the best deal you've ever gotten on a home decor item that you were not at all expecting to buy. For me, it's always those cool thrift store finds that I end up loving the most. Okay, one last switcheroo of this cactus here, and then I think we're ready to call it done. For the finishing touch, I pulled out these little skeleton garden gnomes that I had made with concrete earlier just to give a cute little October Drive finishing touch to this porch. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I love that I could still fit this tiny bench on my really small porch. I think these plants really bring this porch to life and the succulents add so much color. Of course, my favorite touch is these concrete skull garden gnomes. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this video is inspiring you to get your porch ready for the summer season ahead. I'll see you in the next video.